welcome to the Professional Sales Development Session brought to you by the Aurora Regional Chamber of Commerce. We are thrilled to have you here today to join us and get sales insight from yet another sales professional. Joining us in just a few minutes, I will introduce our keynote speaker as well as our facilitator, but I want to give you a little bit about some information about the Aurora Regional Chamber. So we are the catalyst for business success here in the Aurora region and the greater Fox Valley region. We unite businesses with the community to create economic prosperity and facilitate leaders. We have a vast reach, as I mentioned, across the Aurora region and the Fox Valley region, and that extends to Kane, Kendall, DuPage, and Will counties. We're nearly 600 strong with businesses, and beyond that, of those businesses, our membership is made up of many, many representatives at these businesses. So we do have many, many members of the business of the chamber. And we are 110 plus years young, if you will. And we plan to be here for another 110 plus, working on behalf of the businesses in the Aurora region. We do work hard, and as such, we have been recognized as a 5-star accredited chamber from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. This is a designation that is not awarded to many chambers at all. In fact, a very, very select few in Illinois have this designation, and a very, very, very select few across the United States have this designation. So super proud of that. And as part of our work to bring programs and benefits to the businesses across the Aurora region, we really do work quite hard to make sure that you have tools and resources available to you. And as such, we were awarded the 2020 Chamber of the Year award by the Illinois Association of Chamber and Commerce Executives. So really proud of the work that we did, especially in a pandemic year, to be awarded that. So very proud of the work that we are doing on your behalf. But today we are gathering to talk about the key factors to improve your professional presence. And to speak to us on this topic, we have a guest speaker, but to facilitate today's session, once again, we have Mr. Shawn Green, Professor of Marketing, Business, and Economics at Aurora University. Shawn lends his time, his insights, his reach, his professional contacts to this professional development session series. And we thank him month in and month out as he helps us put on this program. And this month, we are honored to have Kady, founder and president of Kady Consulting Group, an authorized Sandler Training Center business. And we are excited to have Aaron share with us improving our professional presence and what we can do. And to that end, I will transition this to Shawn to introduce Aaron. Shawn, you can take it away.
All right. So as you already know, that I'm just going to briefly identify the title, and I'm going to introduce some of the background of Aaron. So we're going to be talking about the key factors that will help you improve your professional presence and relevance in today's sales environment. I'm going to let Aaron share all about that. So I'm not going to speak any more about the topic intentionally. But Aaron Kady, am I saying that right, Aaron?
That's right.
That's what I thought. Aaron Kady is the founder and president of Kady Consulting Group, an authorized Sandler Training Center located in Naperville, Illinois. And his sought-after firm helps ambitious business leaders achieve continuous improvement through sales management, and leadership development. Before opening his firm, Aaron built a successful career over 2 decades, very sales-driven, leading organizations and sales teams. Aaron's been in sales management, has helped accelerate growth by expanding market share and improving profitability with the global OEM and distribution leaders in automotive and heavy-duty market segments. He's helped countless people achieve success, earn numerous awards and accolades, and reach pinnacles of sales achievement in several different companies. You have, if I'm understanding correctly, in terms of you and in your role in sales management, in terms of the teams that you have led, hundreds of millions of dollars you have either through you or the teams that you have managed in terms of sales that you have made over the years? Is that, I take it that?
Yeah, that's right, Shawn. When you go through the math, and I guess longevity is a certain portion of that equation. So yeah, kind of step back for a minute and think of the teams that you've led and the projects that you've been involved with, and actually gets up into the low billions. But, yes, I've been in sales for a long time, and you want me to take it from there, Shawn?
No, that'd be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just want to read one more sentence here, following the career you've had, in industry, in terms of your industry, direct sales, you realize that your calling was to share with others and how they can achieve their goals in the sales industry. And so that's one of the reasons why you do what you do today.
It is, Shawn. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's great to meet you all on this call. I've seen some of you around on these before, and recognize that some are in the same field as what I do. And it's great to see the work that you're doing. It's a passion of mine that I wanted to follow here. I started Kady Consulting Group last year, and was in search of the perfect framework and model to design my business case around. And I found Sandler. Sandler is a 50-year leader in sales training, and 250 training centers worldwide, training over 30,000 associates, clients over a year's period of time. And I got into this after 20 years kind of climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, and in particular the past 10 working for a European company, leading a large team around the world, which had me in different locations pretty much year round: Australia, South America, Central America, the Asian market, in Japan quite a bit. And with a young family, I wanted to bring things closer to home. So with the experience that I had and the brand and the content of Sandler, it felt like the right time to take a calculated risk on myself. And as Shawn had mentioned, I have a passion of helping others, and I felt that this was a great model to really help other businesses, regardless of their industry, regardless of their size. To combine that experience with the curriculum of Sandler really was enticing to me. And it just so happens the pandemic hit, right? So the world changed. And as you look at the sales model and the way people go to drive business for their companies, everything had changed, right? We all had to look at things a little differently. And what better time to jump into this type of profession to really share ideas on how we can do things differently. So the point was made earlier. I believe it was, somebody mentioned that not a whole lot of people seek sales as a career or a profession. And I'm so pleased that Shawn and others are beginning or have established these sales programs at the university level. It really helps to start thinking about sales and how to, be the spokesperson for your company at an early age, rather than to end up in sales accidentally, be given a brochure and learn about products, features, and benefits, and forcefully selling what your company has to offer. I think if you take a different approach and you look at it from the buyer's perspective, oftentimes you can not be viewed as a pushy salesperson, but more of a trusted advisor to really work toward a common goal. So I'm going to go through a presentation. I don't mean for it to get into a PowerPoint presentation just for you to read things. I really want this to be interactive. We've got a great group that can bring different mindsets and perspectives to what we have to share here. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of it. So I want to get things started a little bit with some questions, and I want you to look back at the past couple of years and see how things have changed for you. I mean, what are you doing differently? What has changed for you? And it could be both good or bad. But jot down just a couple things that have changed for you. And then underneath that, jot down two things that have been your biggest challenge in terms of, the sales process. If you could look at, maybe a couple things like, you've got stalls and objections in your sales process, or you feel like, you're discounting too much in your sales process. Just those are a couple ideas, but jot down a couple things that come to mind that have been a real challenge for you. So two things: what's changed for you? And second, what's your biggest challenge in the sales process? I'll give you just a minute to jot those down, and we'll get into the presentation. All right, we'll go from here. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, so you've
I
got
can clip all of that out of the recording. All good. It's like it never happened.
Thank you. All right, well, I just wanted to, with some intentionality, Colleen, you talked about, you pull some ideas out of these presentations and things that you have been doing or thought of in the past. But, it's just bringing some intentionality to those thoughts and really, figuring out how to impress upon your process or your system that many components you have been working on in the past, but just to lean on a framework and a system approach to help you through the process and avoid many of these challenges that we overcome as salespeople. So, if anyone would like to volunteer to talk about one of their biggest challenges, we can have a little bit of a discussion of, some things that we'll be talking about through the presentation. Would anyone like to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, great.
So for me, biggest challenge has been, so during the pandemic, we had a huge influx of adoptions of pets, and the veterinarians are strained. In fact, they say 15,000, there'll be a shortfall of 15,000 veterinarians by 2030. So they're just overworked. There's a negative employment rate. There's not enough veterinarians, and that's who I call on. And so access to the veterinarians and their time has been the biggest challenge. Where I think, I've overcome it quite a bit is focusing on quality and brevity versus quantity, right? Instead of blitzing all these communication to multiple customers, I'm really leaning in where I know there's best opportunities, really engaging with those folks. But the problem is they're deflecting a lot of the communication to gatekeepers and hospital managers, practice managers, vet techs, and it's a clinical sale. I have to sell the clinical value of what I'm selling, and the doctors make the decisions, and I can't get to them.
Okay. So the main thing is just the ability to handle all the business, right? I mean, you're looking to get to the pain quickly so that you can service the customer more efficiently. Is that right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, when I meet with a veterinarian, I do have to discover their diagnostic philosophy, if you will, to inspire them to consider, new testing. And I think because everyone's so busy, they just stay with the status quo, what they have, and they don't want to make change because they don't have the time, and they don't even want to meet with you because they don't have the time. So it's just challenging just to get the conversation, just to get access. Once we do, a lot happens, and things have been successful, but it's been more quality versus quantity. I mean, a lot less engagement opportunities.
What do you feel that's done for business? I mean, do you feel like there's been a substantial loss or a missing out of revenue as a result that you can quantify?
No, I mean, honestly, I've continued to exceed on my goals. So for me personally, but it's really stressful because, I used to be able to engage with a lot more customers. But again, I'm having more meaningful conversations, and I've had to tweak my pitch and, process to be more concise. So I think it's kind of forced us to be more efficient. And we've continued, and it's just evident within our quality of we spent over 150 million on R&D. So there's a lot of value in the diagnostics that we bring. And so these veterinarians don't really care. They usually care more about pets than profits. So once you can have their ear, it does lead to sales, but it's just that initial, just getting them to even meet with you. The sales cycle is stretched out now. So everything used to be a lot quicker. Now it's like, I may not meet after multiple phone calls, emails, it could be 2-3 months, and I got a quarterly goal. So it's been more challenging, but I think it's, how do you overcome that when there's such a shortfall of vets and they're strained on their time? And I think it's just trying to really just brevity is the key, I think. But how do you create enough interest to have them see the value of meeting with you when they're just swamped?
Right.
Everyone's swamped at the animal hospital.
Interesting. So what have you changed? I mean, this is something that's been building. Have you made changes, or have you? What has been done to address the issue? So far. What steps have you taken to try to address the issue?
I mean, honestly, I had one where there's one of the biggest opportunities here in Plainfield, a large animal hospital. I literally came in with a nothing bundt cake and put a white flag in the center, surrender flag, and said, I don't know what else to do. And I got a big laugh, and I got a meeting, and got in there. So I just had to think outside the box, because the definition of insanity, obviously doing something over and over and expecting different results. I multiple emails, phone calls, and also physically just getting in front, and people are kind of thirsty to see us again. I was kind of trying to be respectful of how busy everyone was, and was really just trying to do things more virtual. So I think, I know it's nothing different. It's prior to the pandemic, but now I'm getting back physically in there, and that's creating, I think, through interpersonal skills, and just, the harder I'm working, the luckier I'm getting, as far as physically getting out there again. That's another thing.
Okay. All right, but you're doing some things to address it. You're changing, and that's kind of what we went back to the beginning of the talk is, the world has changed. You're doing things differently in terms of trying to speed the velocity through virtual meetings. And yes, we need to get back to in person, and that personal touch, I would especially matters in your business. But if you can handle customers virtually, and you've done some things. What if you were able to bring on more staff, and it was an ideal organization in terms of your capacity, how much more revenue do you think you could bring on board in a 12-month period, or even break it down into monthly?
Well, we're pretty saturated. We have multiple touch points with multiple inside sales. We have specialists. We have veterinarians who I can call in to get a little deeper on the clinical conversation. We got field support. So I almost feel like we have almost too many people, quite honestly, too many chefs in the kitchen. Okay. So I don't know if it's the head count as much as it is figuring out ways to make them make time. And I don't know what that is. I mean, I don't know if it's maybe to your point, the in-person, maybe it's steak dinners, going back to the old school seminars and getting them away from the stress. I don't know, but to answer your question, I don't know if you could add more headcount, but it ultimately comes down to, I'm getting my call volume is up when you count the virtual. My activity used to do 22 calls in person a week, and now I'm half that, but my overall call activity is fourfold.
Okay.
So, we're getting a lot more activity in communicating, but it's just getting them to have the time to respond. I think just when everyone's busy, they're going to have their own priorities, and it's really the patients and their current process of doing things. So I'm trying to get them to make a change if they're not with us or not doing something more robust that would cost more, right? That would bring better patient outcomes. But again, I think it's not so much the labor on our end. I think it's just how do we get them inspired to want to see us and meet us and make the time.
Jeff, what do you offer?
I'm sorry?
What are you selling?
Yeah, so I'm selling, the best way the analogy is Quest, so the reference lab service, and then point of care analyzers, chemistry, CBC, urine analysis, vector-borne disease testing. So we also are like the Abbott, even practice software, SaaS, and digital x-ray. So anything to discover what's going on inside the pet, point of care or at the lab.
Can it be mobile?
Yeah, there's mobile veterinarians. I don't call on those, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we have inside sales call on the mobile now. I have animal hospitals and individual veterinarians primarily.
So is this something that can be utilized for a traveling vet, a mobile vet, a concierge vet service?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting, and it sounds like your business is evolving. You're looking to shorten your sales cycles, be more efficient, and you've even mentioned the component of going back to the way you used to do things, right? To get people to buy in quicker, and that's really the fact of the matter is here. I'm realizing really moving on time. I better get going, but the fact is we take into consideration two aspects where sales can go wrong oftentimes. And some are technical, where people don't know what to do or how to respond. These are the techniques and the skills. But oftentimes it's conceptual, and they know what to do, but they won't do it. So it's a balance of the technical and conceptual that we want to address and talk about. And listen, you're taking the first step. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Jeff.
I'm going blind. I don't have gallery here, guys. So I'm sorry about that. But
Okay, I'm Jeff.
Jeff, you're taking the step of participating and looking to expand and talk about, your situation. And we can really learn through all of our experiences how to come up with some new ideas, because from a technical standpoint, you're exactly where you need to be. You know what to do and how to respond. The conceptual side is getting ideas on how to do things differently. And, whether it's, you don't seem to have a prospecting problem. You've got, your funnel is full. You're looking to be more efficient and close more quickly. And the Sandler process, we've got some ideas that could be of help to you. That are additional techniques and skills that we can talk about here. I want to start though with what we call the belief wheel. Things that we think are perhaps the right way to do things. And as we get into our mindset and how we approach solving problems, we make judgments. Right, we make judgments in what we believe in. So we're compounding our beliefs by saying this is the way to solve a problem, and we take action on that, or we do not take an action on that. But that action or non-action confirms what we thought. So it's an ongoing cycle, and oftentimes we need to break the cycle. I'll give you an example. When we went into the pandemic, we said, hey, phone meetings are a phone meeting or an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting. Well, if we told ourselves that virtual meetings don't work, we'd have a serious problem in the pandemic, right? We would be stuck not taking the actions that we needed to prospect. But if we opened up our mind and said, hey, we can do things in a new way and take action upon that and begin a virtual offering or expand on a virtual offering that maybe already existed, you know, we can change our belief system, because if we take the action to do something, we can change our beliefs. And oftentimes, I won't get into it today, but Sandler, we believe in the BAT triangle of success. And it's the beliefs, the attitudes, and the techniques. And, you know, oftentimes we have to change our behaviors. I say beliefs, I'm sorry, behaviors, attitude, and techniques. And we need to take the behavior side and take action to change our attitude, and then we can learn techniques as we move forward. So the belief wheel is very important to break the cycle oftentimes of what we believe is holding us back. So do we understand what's holding us back? Do we really self-analyze and take an introspective approach to make changes to the way we do things? You know, oftentimes the roadblocks are and objections you face with the interactions with the buyer are not tied to the product or service. You know, if you were to leave your company today and go to the competitor, would you have the credibility to sell the product that you were competing against? Oftentimes we would say that the competitor is, you know, doing a very similar thing that we're doing, but are we different? How do we make ourselves different? And we can say we have the best this or that, but have you thought about where the resistance comes from in the selling process? That resistance is often because the salesperson is not as good as they need to be. Think about when we go to a car showroom and the salesperson comes up to us and, you know, we lie to them right away. We say, we're just looking. Well, why are we at the car dealership, right? We're looking because we're interested in buying. So we need to learn to break down those barriers, become a trusted advisor rather than a vendor. We have 49 rules in Sandler, and one of them is hard selling is good for one thing, that's hard pushback. So let's take a look at the typical sales process. You know, oftentimes you start with a needs analysis. We're looking to figure out what the buyer needs. All right, then we present because we think we know exactly what they're looking for. Then the seller would ask something like, what do you think? Or, you know, do you think it's good enough to move forward? They attempt to close. And it usually comes with objections at that point. The buyer will ask for different things. They look to adjust the proposal. And it becomes awkward at that point. Then you have a think it over, or you need to involve other people in the process, or you're going to shop to the competition. And then when we follow up, the buyer has all the information they need, and we've been sent away. Now we're chasing. We're in voicemail hell, right? We're looking to rekindle the opportunity through emails, and it becomes a desperate cycle. I'm sure this sounds familiar in some of your worlds. The buyer, we call it lie, steal, lie, and hide, right? They express interest. They act motivated. They oftentimes will say, hey, this is exactly what we're looking for. You've come highly recommended. You think that this is going in a good direction as a seller. Those points are usually a pitfall. It's not a buying signal. They're just looking to get more information. And then all of a sudden they avoid the commitment and they disappear. So what we try to do is take control of this process. We call it the buyer-seller dance. And if we take control of the process differently, we can be in control and have a positive outcome for both sides. So you want to avoid the educated buyer and the frustrated salesperson, because if the salesperson loses control, well, now you no longer have the equal business stature. You've got many different challenges that weren't even there in the beginning. So oftentimes the best proposal that you would offer in the traditional approach is never even addressing the real problems. So who's leading the buyer-seller dance in the traditional model? It's definitely the buyer. All right, so if we get into the Sandler philosophies, we as salespeople are the professionals. We are professionals, and we should qualify buyers for the salesperson's time and efforts. There's something to be said about equal business stature in the sales process. You need to develop the opportunities in a systematic approach so that they see you're in control of the process. When you're in control, you earn the respect of those that you're looking to sell to. And some buyers simply won't qualify for the salesperson's time. If we look at prospecting as in search of those that don't qualify, it almost becomes a game that we can play as salespeople to use our time more efficiently, right? We're looking to disqualify people so that we don't, waste our time and waste their time if we can't offer a solution for them. So stalls and objections should not be part of the selling process. Controlling the selling process is a function of asking the right questions at the right time of the right people. And there should be a clear start and finish to every selling opportunity. So we as salespeople should create an atmosphere and an environment which allows the customer to buy. People like to buy. We don't want to be in the way of that process. So what I do, I want to go through the Sandler selling system, and I believe some of you may be familiar with this, but it's what we'll call the non-traditional approach. The Sandler system has 7 steps, and the order does matter. If you look at many of our teachings, they come in shapes. This is a circle, and it's intentional because it never ends. Let's be honest, we are looking to build business that stays with us and refers us to additional business in many of the aspects of what you guys do in sales. So we start with bonding and rapport. I'm going to break these into 3 chunks. The first 2 are bonding and rapport and upfront contracts. And bonding and rapport is important. Oftentimes we ask clients, we talk about bonding and rapport, and do you have a good relationship with your customer? And oftentimes you'll get, we do with this person or maybe not this person. And the fact of the matter is bonding and rapport is critical to getting things moving in the right direction. And you either have it or you don't, right? So if you have concerns about the first step in bonding and rapport, there are some things that we get into in our teachings in terms of understanding behavioral analysis and how people make the decisions and what types of personalities that you're working with. Oftentimes you can, understand people's behavioral style and mirror in it and react to what works with them. So bonding and rapport is absolutely critical. We don't want to come across as the every solution for every person. Oftentimes we'll say, listen, I'm not even sure we can help until I learn more about your business, which is, brings back the human side of the discussion. It breaks down some of those barriers. It breaks down some of those walls. If we don't automatically tell them, hey, we can help you right away. The upfront contract is critical. Many people look at Sandler, and when they realize that you're a Sandler person or have been through the trainings or a trainer yourself, many people refer to the upfront contract. It's really important that you set up expectations to avoid the mutual mystification. I mean, if people don't know what they're getting to, or they don't know, how this relationship is going to evolve, or how you might be able to help them, oftentimes that's when the buyer will take control of the situation. So you're setting a tone. You're setting a tone for the relationship with clear understanding of the prospect's objectives. All right, so you need to understand what they are looking to achieve. And then you want to make sure that they're clear on what your objectives are, and be very clear on the time allotted, what to expect in your conversation period. And then that the outcome and expectations are very clear in terms of next steps. And sometimes this is where you'll find that you have a no, right? This is not going to work between us. And that's okay. Let's just be very clear in the early phases of our discussions that this will not work. The other is a yes, we're going to proceed with what we have agreed to. And, that's a good outcome. Everybody's happy with that if you're achieving both sides of the equation. And then there can be the follow-up, right? As long as it's a clear follow-up where you have a date, time, and clear objectives to achieve before the next time you speak. So that's kind of the upfront contract in short. Next, we get into what we call the pain. And yes, many people refer to the problems or the reason why you're getting together in the first place as the pain points. And it's extremely important that you understand spending a lot of time in this area so that you can tailor your solution around solving their problem. Okay, so you have an agreement, you're moving forward. The conversation is very clear as to both parties' objectives. You need to find those high pain points, identify actionable pain. I mean, and you need to understand that they're motivated to address those pain points as well. Oftentimes we'll talk about, what can you do better in your business, or what are you looking to do better in your business? But there's not a motivation to actually address those issues. If you're not willing and able to address the issues, it's best you probably move on. Otherwise, you're wasting both parties' time. The understanding of the decision-making process often entails the budget, right? So we need to understand if they are going to be making the decision, do they have the funds to make that decision? Are they the only person making the decision? Do they have other people that should be involved in this process? And then we need to get back to the upfront contract and involve those people, right? If we're realizing that more people are required, let's step back in the process before we move forward. So really the process needs to be who, what, when, and where. And that becomes very clear. We're told as young people, don't talk about, money. We're at a disadvantage already, as our parents would tell us, well, don't talk about money, because you need to talk about money. You need to understand early in the process if they have the ability to make this decision with the funds that are in their budget. Okay, so selling to people with pain, the proper budget, and decision-making capabilities is not cheating. These are things we need to get out early in the process, rather than putting a proposal on the table and hoping that we're meeting their needs at the right price and all the right people are in the decision-making process. And then finally, we are looking to close the sale, okay? Once we've confirmed all those points, that we're giving them the right product for for the right amount of money and the right people are involved, you know, then it's time to finally present. They qualify for our time and effort. We've earned their trust through the process because we've given them every opportunity to either back out or to let us know what they need to address their concerns. And then we can offer that solution. So if you get to the fulfillment point, we should expect that you're getting 80% success rate. I mean, oftentimes you are comfortable in the solution, they're comfortable in your approach, and you have no mutual mystification. Sorry. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell. We finish with the post-sell, which is very important to avoid buyer's remorse, to make sure that you have given them exactly what they're looking for, and to, again, earn that respect, earn that next step, so that they're referring you to the people that they feel you could be of help to as well. So you don't want to miss that opportunity for more communication, more opportunity for you and your business in the post-sell step. Okay, so the main thing here is let's try not to get between where the buyer wants to go and where you want to go, where you want to take them. You can't sell to anybody unless they discover they want it. All right, everybody wants to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. And that's kind of the gist of the Sandler selling system rather than the traditional selling system. Okay, any questions, any points to cover at this point? Anything, does this all make sense? Okay.
It does.
All right, good. We have a couple things that I wanted to talk about and address as far as the time period we're in. You know, we talk about the Sandler success triangle, and I really want to stress the behavior side of this.
Aaron, I just wanted to ask a question in terms of the Sandler system, in terms of the pain, identifying problems. So we may be going through this process more than once, if I'm understanding correctly, because we might not always get to the decision maker right away. I mean, it's pretty common that we're not going to do that. Right. So we may go through some of these steps of this process. We may get to an influencer, and they might or might not have complete knowledge of actual budgets and things like that.
Right.
Share any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's where the upfront contract becomes critical in the process. I think if you realize you've moved on to a step and you haven't closed the gates, as we say, to the prior step, you know, that's okay. You really earn that trust, and you earn the respect of the person you're working with by stepping back and making sure you've covered all the bases. The upfront contract is where you ask the proper questions, right? You ask, well, I'm sorry, the pain step is where you ask the questions, but the upfront contract is to make sure that you're dealing with the right people. You know, you talk about setting the expectations for the meeting and the proper outcome. Mm-hmm. Once you've set those expectations, you know, oftentimes the prospect or the client will say, well, hold on, in order for me to achieve that expectation, I may need someone else with me in the process. And, you know, sales is communication. So if you're communicating early enough what the expectations are, oftentimes that person that you are dealing with will say, hold on, well, maybe I can't, you know, I can't get to that outcome without having a certain decision maker in the room with us.
I just want to make one comment too. I feel like you know, Salesforce is the CRM we use. It's vital for us to get, you know, information as we're looking through the discovery process, or you know, we're talking to influencers that aren't decision makers, but they can reveal problems that exist that the decision maker is unaware of. So through that process of meeting everyone, everyone can have an impact on giving you information, and then you log in that information and it can tell a story. So CRM is critical, I think, as these sales cycles are not always quick. It's a longer route relationship type business that you could be in.
Agree completely. CRM is a tool that most use at this point, but you know, oftentimes you're using it as a content or a contact organizer, and not really using it to bring the whole team together with common output or outcomes. So I agree completely. That's a great point. CRM can be used as a tool to make sure you've got all the decision makers on board. All right, very good. You know, back to the triangle, the behaviors drive the attitude. The attitude is a result of understanding what actions you've taken into account, what actions you've put in place. You know, I think it's important that we just take that step of driving our behaviors to change our attitude oftentimes. The attitude is the philosophy or the mind, body, and spirit, and we need to take care of that. But oftentimes we get stuck on not taking the actions, which, you know, can reduce our attitude and bring things in a negative direction. Once we have that positive attitude and we're moving in a good direction, then you can learn the skills and techniques required in the bottom right-hand side of the triangle. You're more encouraged to have a positive educational process to improve your behaviors, but it really does start, because without the behaviors, you're not learning what you need to do to change. So this is a critical part of Sandler. We get into each of the components in great detail in our teachings. But I did want to talk just briefly, and I talked to Shawn before we got into this about many bullet points, and I didn't want to disappoint on some of the things that we had promised, although each of these could probably be a presentation in itself. But as we think about where we are in the world today and getting back into a business environment that, you know, we dropped off a couple of years ago, it's important that we look at a personal development plan. And one of the things in terms of the success triangle that we look at is, you know, the technique side. And when we set goals for ourselves, we find that we can promote those behaviors because it gets us into action. We find setting goals, short-term and long-term, to be a critical part of the personal development plan. You know, are you adding new skills each and every quarter? I mean, are you actually ticking the box on doing something new and then implementing it and making it actionable to achieve longer term goals? We believe that this is something that a lot of people say they do. At the beginning of the year, you know, we all have a personal development plan. We're going to lose weight. We're going to work out. We should have this in our careers as well and stick with it. You know, development is the gym membership, but it's using the gym membership, right? We can't drop off, and it's now about the time when people drop off their New Year's resolution. We really need to have some intentionality behind what we do, and short-term goals can help you stay on track. You know, we say 30-day goals, 60-day goals, 90-day goals. Really, if we set daily goals, if we say, hey, prospecting is important, and in order for me to prospect, I realize that cold calling is a part of what I need to do. You know, set an achievable daily goal. Make 10 calls or whatever works in your world. Achievable goals that keep you moving in the right direction. I think that's really important. You can leverage platforms that help you more effectively connect with your prospects. You know, these are goals You mentioned CRM, set goals within your systems to help promote better behaviors and improve that attitude along the way. These are things like, I'm going to network more through LinkedIn, or I'm going to join the chamber and I'm going to participate in all the meetings, and, make sure that you're achieving these goals along the way, and you'll feel better about yourself and kind of pick yourself up in a new way of thinking as we come back to some normalcy here in business. All right. So identify challenges facing the industries that you serve. Identify and follow news sources that are ideal with your customers and your ideal prospects. In today's world, we often click on the things that we just naturally gravitate toward. I find this, you can get into a spiral sometimes with the news sources. Just think from a political or geopolitical standpoint from a outside of business world. You're bombarded by the news that you read, and oftentimes we're not getting another perspective. You can find that in Twitter because you're clicking on things only that you like, rather than other perspectives from the same situations. So open your mind, and in business as it relates to what you do, think about capturing all the news sources that you can. You'll gather best practices, and you'll gather some things that people have learned from, which is really important in our personal development and professional development. And then be curious about the impact of new technologies. I just came back from Sandler Summit, which is our annual conference. And man, the things we're looking at out into the future, they may not be that far out into the future, are really impressive. You think about the metaverse and how we're going to be going to business in the future, whether it's 2 years or 10 years. Always be prepared for what's coming next. Zoom is not necessarily new for us, but we use it a lot more now than we did 2 years ago. Think about if you're in a virtual world and you're meeting with people all over the world, speaking different languages, but it's translated for you into your language. And think about the possibilities of expanding your businesses by having that as a part of your company moving forward. It's really exciting. And you think about how the evolution of businesses that grow so exponentially fast. And then you think about those businesses that have fallen off. The example was Kodak or Instagram. Kodak, they said they were in the film business, when in fact they were in the memory capturing business. And unfortunately, they didn't move to memory capturing with the technology that was available to them, which Instagram has done, and the exponential growth as a result, and the closure of Kodak as a result is an interesting analogy to think about. And then finally, the best sales practices. Just by joining a conference like this or attending other people's seminars or looking for extra help, you can help, keep yourself relevant, the relevance of your message fresh, and identify what other people are doing well. It's important, and by showing up at this conference, clearly, you've demonstrated the desire to continue to learn. And if what my message today has piqued any interest, I certainly would be interested to talk to you in more detail. Reach me at your convenience. No obligation consultation. I'd be more than happy to talk about your situations in more detail with you at the right time. So I thank you for your time. You can share in the chat any comments, things that you liked, disliked. I'm open to it. This is my first presentation with the chamber, and I appreciate Shawn asking me to do this. It's a great group of people that I look forward to participating with more in the future. So thanks again.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Aaron, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Aaron, you brought up an interesting topic about CRM. I actually posed a question to the group about, there are just so many tools to use, and obviously some are unique to your industry and what you need, but there are just so many different sales tools to manage your contacts, your pipeline. So yeah, I was kind of curious as to what everyone's using. So I got some feedback, but that was something that I'd already been noodling, and when you put it out there, I was like, oh, this would be a great group to ask.
Yeah, that is. And one of your members brought that up. I appreciate that.
Aaron, could you speak just for a moment? But you mentioned you were talking about goals. You kind of broke down goals a little bit. I mean, obviously you've set a lot of goals in the course of your career, both for you, and you've helped your teams set goals. I mean, give us some insight that you've applied that's been helpful for you, teams, in the lines of goals, because goals can provide direction, guidance. So any thoughts you have about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you want to approach goals from two perspectives. First, as the leader of the sales organization or the organization as a whole, you want to meet company objectives, right? And those objectives come from different areas, whether it's investors or, private owners or whatever it may be. You certainly want to hit the company objectives first. But then when you meet with your individuals and the people that work for you, I think it's important that you're setting SMART goals, the goals that are, specific, measurable, achievable, let's say repeatable. But those goals that you're able to measure on a short-term and long-term basis, usually quarterly, and throughout the year, you're discussing these goals and your progress. And what makes your people tick? What do they like to do? You usually want to make sure that your employees are happy, especially in today's day and age, when you're looking to make sure you're retaining your employees, the right employees. You got the right people on the bus doing the right things. Sales is communication. So if you're communicating with your people and setting those goals together, and then measuring throughout the year, I think you'll remain on track. And when you're off track, are you coaching? Are you working with those individuals to get back on track? Are you finding out what's working, what's not working for them? The most important thing, I think, as a sales leader is that you're enabling your employees to do their jobs, and you're giving them feedback along the way, but you're not micromanaging and asking them to check in with you, right? This should be a two-way street of communication where they feel comfortable talking to you about the challenges that they're having. So it kind of goes back to the Sandler sales system, right? If you're developing that rapport with your people, you're setting the upfront contracts, you're understanding exactly, what each side wants to achieve out of reaching these goals, setting and achieving the goals. You're off to a good start with communication and an understanding of both sides.
A great point. And clarification of goals, like with prospects, and again with as team members as well, like you said, managing is really, really important.
Yeah, we do that 90-day plan practice at NetScout, and it's very successful. From a rep putting together their own 90-day plans, like he said, with SMART goals that you can check the box or not check the box with management. Sometimes, like sales, you need to give yourself a timeline, because you can keep prospecting, keep doing things, but if you're not able to measure it, the quota will come and you won't know if you hit it or where you went wrong because you weren't checking in periodically.
Yeah, we actually establish milestones. So the goal, and no matter how far out the goal is, if it's a daily goal, if it's a monthly goal or quarterly, but having the milestones within the goal, that's actually because then we were haphazardly looking and going, oh yeah, we're on target to achieve the goal. Oh, we're kind of off, but it was a guess as to whether we were on target or off target. You know, as we were, you know, working our way through the goal. Oops, sorry. But having the milestones in, it was very cut and dry. Did you reach this milestone? Did you reach this milestone? Okay, then you're on track. So I find having milestones within goals is really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point, Colleen. That goes to specific, right? First letter of the acronym, be very specific, and then that communication throughout the timeline of the goals, you'll be very clear whether you're on track or not on track.
What about challenges? I mean, I know in the past I've done like a SWOT analysis, but what do you recommend on identifying internally the challenges for the sales team, what they're facing and why they're not delivering in a certain way, or any tools or techniques to, you know, I guess as a leader in an organization, because you don't always get the honest truth, like you mentioned earlier, that they need to be comfortable talking to you. Well, in a virtual environment where if you're the leader of a sales force, you don't always get the true pulse of what's going on if they're not comfortable talking to you. So any ideas on trying to ensure we're getting a true pulse on what's going on as far as you know, the challenges that may be, you know, impacting business?
Well, I think that's a great point, especially in today's environment. If you can't trust your team, you're off to a bad start in the beginning, right? So you know, making yourself available, open and honest, and you know, I found in my previous life during the pandemic that it almost became easier to develop those relationships because you show that you're available, right? I mean, you may not be comfortable, but you're available and you're there. And sometimes the uncomfortable conversations are those are the most important conversations you can have. But I mean, if I've got a worldwide team and I can have everybody on daily, if that's what's required during that certain segment of your business cycle, you know, you can have everybody. You don't have to travel for me to Australia, Japan, France. I mean, right before the pandemic, I had a trip from Indonesia to Australia to Japan. I mean, it's a 2-week trip. And I'm thinking, when I got back and began everything on Zoom, why didn't I do that 3 weeks ago? You know, I could have had everybody on the same call. And that's what we did. We built our communication even more so through Zoom. So yes, you lose some of the personability. You miss out on the, you know, dinners after the meeting. You miss out on some of the extra time together. But if you're showing that you're willing to be there for them at any time on Zoom, you know, I think that helps build trust. And uncomfortable conversations are really the most important conversations you can have. You know, that you show you're there to support. You know, it's never a leader telling someone what to do. It's enabling them to do the right thing. And I mean, that's a great question. That's a challenge we all face, you know, in sales leadership. But my advice is to be there for your people. And, you know, as those uncomfortable conversations come up, they'll become more comfortable when they realize that sometimes you're trying to figure it out with them, right? We should. We got a motto: getting comfortable being with the uncomfortable. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, and listen, as a sales leader, you don't want to come across as the know-it-all. I mean, you really can arrive at solutions with your team. And oftentimes as a leader, you'll realize that, hey, they have a lot of experience out in the field. They're talking to the customers more than we are. Or, you know, they can bring extreme value to what you're offering as a company. And oftentimes you support them and tell them, hey, you're doing the right thing. Let's keep doing it. And if they're not, you know, you can figure that out together, but you can't if you're not available for them. And I think being present and utilizing the technology is critical in the success of an organization.
Thank you.
Well said.
Any other questions for Aaron?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you immensely. This is really, really helpful.
Well, great. I appreciate everyone joining and apologize for the technical snafu in the beginning, but I hope you took something out of this that you can use today and use in the short term. And again, if you're interested in further discussions, I welcome talking to you in the future.
Aaron, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And Aaron's contact information will be provided to all of you in the spreadsheet. And likewise, Aaron, you will get it as well. So you'll have everybody else's contact, and you guys will get the recording. So both those will go out this afternoon.
All right.
Aaron, your stories at the end about your personal experience in business were very interesting and valuable to the conversation. So good job.
Great. Thanks, Bo.
All right.
All right.
I think
Thank you, everybody.